To foretell the destiny of a nation, it is necessary to open the book that tells of her past. As the country's fortress of history in the heart of Manila cradles bittersweet memories from hundreds of years ago, from horrors of wars, tortures and murders, nature's wrath to haunting stories of today. With its centuries-old preserved architecture and cobble streets, Intramuros is the oldest district of Manila, the country's capital once known as the Venice of the East, Queen of the Pacific, and Pearl of the Orient. The iconic landmarks of our very own walled city will have us falling in love through heritage tours for a trip down memory lane. Pasyal Aral for a free tour program. Vintage day trip with your someone special. And ghost hunting or paranormal adventure within the wall. Built in 1571 on the site of the native settlement of Rahasuliman by Spanish Governor Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, Fort Santiago is Intramuros' citadel and stone castle portal into the Philippines' colonial past. In Spanish colonial era, it served as a prison for political prisoners. From 1762 to 1764, it became the headquarters of the British occupation army. During the Second World War, it was turned into a torture chamber where hundreds of civilians and guerrillas were imprisoned, tortured, and executed. It was destroyed in the Battle of Manila in 1945. And in 1950, it was declared as a shrine of freedom. The following year, its restoration and maintenance began. The management of the walled city was turned over to the Intramuros administration in 1992. Today, it is a national shrine for the preservation of historic monuments of Intramuros. There were 7 gates of the walled city, namely Postigo, Santa Lucia, Rizal, Parian, Isabel II, Santo Domingo, and Almacenes. The first 5 were restored after the Second World War, while the last 2 gates were lost during the American period. The city's defensive walls and trapezoidal-designed fortification features 9 bastions or baluartes: the Baluarte Plano Luneta de Santa Isabel, the Medio Baluarte de San Francisco, the Baluartillo de San Francisco Javier, the Baluartes de San Miguel, San Andres, Dilao, Santo Domingo, San Gabriel, and Baluarte de San Diego. At the south end of the walled city, Baluarte de San Diego, as an enduring bastion, lies overlooking the Manila Bay. Created in 1663, this spade-shaped watchtower was made to protect Manila at its bay side. Also, this old moss-covered bulwark is said to be a drowning chamber during the Spanish era. Damaged during the earthquake of 1863 and was destroyed during the Battle of Manila in 1945. After surviving the ravages of time and being forgotten for several years, it was restored from 1979 to 1992. Now, it serves medical frontliners, our modern-day heroes, a healing garden, a solace, and a sanctuary at its side. Walking along Intramuros, you'll feel like you're back in time and at the heart of the walled city. A memorial museum was built in honor of our national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal, the fort's most famous prisoner. Situated where Rizal spent his last hours before his execution and hid his untitled valedictory poem, Mi Ultimo Adios, Museo ni Jose Rizal at Fort Santiago celebrates the life and works of our national hero through its 5 galleries, namely Silid Pagninilay, Silid Piitan, Silid Paglilitis, Kabayanihan, and Silid Pamana.
Farewell, my adored land, region of the sun caressed, pearl over the Orient Sea, our Eden lost. With gladness I give thee my life, sad and repressed, and were it more brilliant, more fresh, and at its best, I would still give it to thee, for thine welfare at most.
Retracing our national hero's last steps, Intramuros showcases Rizal's bronze-embedded footsteps on his way to execution. On December 30, 1896, Rizal calmly faced the firing squad in Bagumbayan, an execution that sparked historic revolution to overthrow centuries-old reign of cross and sword. As a religious center in Spanish colonial era, Intramuros is home to 8 churches of the Roman Catholic Church. Founded in 1581, the Romanesque Manila Cathedral is known as the prime basilica of the Philippines. It was damaged by the 1880 earthquake and destroyed in the 1945 Battle of Manila. History aside, the cathedral keeps an urban legend that couples who tied the knot at the cathedral will eventually end up in a failed marriage. As the oldest stone church in the country, San Agustin Church has survived fires of invasion, earthquakes from 16th to 17th century, and the wrath of the time during the Second World War. Declared as Manila's sole UNESCO World Heritage Site, the church is home to the remains of renowned Filipino artist Juan Luna and Spanish conquistador Juan Miguel Lopez de Legazpi. History feels real with the walled city's other heritage sites and landmarks. At Intramuros' sacred and historic dungeons, at least 600 decomposing bodies were found after the liberation of Manila from the Japanese imperial forces. The remains suggested that these unknown victims died of torture, starvation, and suffocation. These dungeons, as part of Baluarte de Santa Barbara, used to be storage vaults for ammunition and gunpowder. Now, the famed hallowed grounds and its statues depicting Filipino and American war prisoners during the Japanese occupation is open to the public for a tour. Right beside the entrance to the dungeon, a white marble cross marks the mass grave of the victims of tragic turns of events. Dedicated to all innocent, nameless, and unknown victims of war, Memorare Manila 1945 monument stands at the Plazuela de Santa Isabel. Remains of people who lost their lives during the Battle of Manila were cremated and kept inside a time capsule meant to be opened on February 18, 2045. Dubbed as the most haunted site in Intramuros, Aduana Building or La Intendencia housed the National Archives of the Philippines in the early 1900s. As restoration continues, Intramuros braces for the return of the National Archives. Constructed in 1981, Casa Manila is a house museum depicting Principal's domestic lifestyle. Its patio at Plaza San Luis complex is an all-time favorite location for prenups, movies, teleseries, and advertisements. Meanwhile, Fort Santiago's old military barracks turned open-air theater, the Raja Sulaiman Theater, is the birthplace of the Philippine Educational Theater Association, or PETA. Apart from the Spanish colonial heritage, Chinese influence also lives on at the walled city. Along Andes Street, Bahay Chinoy Museum retells Chinese-Filipino story as it features lifelike dioramas depicting the lasting Chinese influences on the Philippines from the pre-Spanish Chinese trading, the Spanish era, to the rise of Chinese Filipinos. Other best-loved spots within the walled city are Ayuntamiento de Manila, Palacio del Gobernador, Plaza Roma, the Pop-Up Library, Book Stop, the Old Manila Eco Market, President's Gallery, Museo de Intramuros, Bagumbayan Light and Sound Museum, Intramuros cafes, and several private museums. Whether you want to get lost in the ruins, ride a kalesa, or rent a bamboo bike for an eco tour, you will feel like you're back in time. And as Intramuros bring us back to the past, its vintage ruins in a modern-day era still serves as a perfect backdrop to suffice our wanderlust. When another tragedy struck the world, Intramuros went into lockdown for several months. With COVID-19 protocols in place, the walled city reopened in February 2021 amidst the ongoing pandemic, nearly a year after the country's first quarantine. Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat expressed high hopes in the revival of the economy of Intramuros, especially since the tourist attraction is known to both local and international travelers. But less than a month after its reopening, the walled city announced the temporary closure of its heritage sites following the COVID-19 surge in Metro Manila and its nearby provinces. While closure amidst the COVID-19 surge due to variants frees our travel plans back to the walled city, if soon Intramuros resumes its operations amidst the pandemic with a roadmap for a safe and full reopening, it will continue to impose body temperature and symptom screening before entry as part of its COVID-19 protocols. Also, within the walled city, physical distancing shall be observed. Tourists are also advised to download the staysafe.ph app and fill out the declaration form provided by the app for contact tracing purposes. Amidst the coronavirus pandemic, November last year, Intramuros was hailed as 2020's Asia's leading tourist attraction, and later as the world's leading tourist attraction at the 27th World Travel Awards, beating other Asian landmarks. The recognition created a great momentum for the reopening of the walled city and the celebration of the Quincentenario, or the 500th year since the arrival of the Spaniards in the Philippines.
Intramuros during the pandemic was awarded by World Travel Awards, world's leading tourist attraction. That was the first time in 27 years. Not only the world, but Asia's leading attraction. And when you look at the travel survey, Intramuros has everything that the traveler is looking for.
Also, during the coronavirus pandemic, World Travel and Tourism Council awarded the Philippines with its Safe Travel Stamp for complying to health and hygiene global standardized protocols against COVID-19. This stamp ensures a safe Intramuros travel in COVID era as it restores confidence in tourism. Looking back at our history, our bridges serve as a link between two cultures in two ages. Connecting the Manila City Hall and Intramuros, the newly redeveloped Lagos Nilad captures Manila's rich history and cultural heritage. After its much-needed makeover, the pedestrian walkway reopened with its colorful murals and bas-relief artwork. Bringing back the visuals, Lagos Nilad paves the way for the return of the famed underground bookstore. connecting the colonial heart of Manila at Solana Street and Riverside Drive, and the Chinatown's district of Manila at San Fernando Street. Binondo Intramuros Arc Bridge is set to rise by September 2021, symbolizing the friendly cooperation between China and the Philippines. The 4.607 billion peso steel bowstring arc bridge is expected to be a new iconic landscape. This China-funded bridge and flagship project under Build 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 would offer a two-way, four-lane bridge over the Pasig River. This friendship bridge across the Pasig River in Manila, which is eye-to-east traffic congestion in Metro Manila, may affect the buffer zone of San Agustin Church, which includes the walls of Intramuros and immediate areas outside, which may eventually cause the San Agustin Church's delisting from the prestigious World Heritage List. Jones Bridge. Manila's Queen of Bridges, Jones Bridge, reopened in 2019 after its renovation by the City of Manila. With its neoclassical design and symbolism, Jones Bridge spans the Pasig River and connects Binondo and Intramuros. It was rebuilt after its destruction in World War II, and only 3 of the La Madre statues survived the war. It was only in 2019 when these statues and a replica of the lost sculpture were brought back to its original location. After its latest renovation, the bridge's timeless beauty captured the hearts of millennials and aesthetic lovers with its stunning visuals at night. Outside the walls of Intramuros, on October 2020, 50 Palawan cherry trees, or locally known as balayong, were planted to serve as a future tourist attraction. These are the Philippine version of Japan's sakura, or cherry blossom. Soon, pale pink blossoms will bloom in the walled city. With the old district's ongoing restoration and beautification, the government has high hopes for the walled city. And as we crave for priceless old Manila walks amidst these trying times, let's see hope beyond the walls of Intramuros.
Intramuros, the old Manila, the original Manila, the noble and ever loyal city.
More than just an old and special district in Manila, Intramuros is a faithful and true witness to historic battles and disasters of all kind. A part of its dark past, it had seen the loss of lives of many Filipinos, had felt the tremors and wrath of nature, as well as the rage, courage, and bravery of our heroes, had heard the loud and silent cries of many Filipinos from different generations, and had beheld the rise and fall of colonial rule and foreign invasion. And may its resilience over the centuries teach us to bounce back from all life's challenges, even amid a pandemic, as we uphold Filipino heritage and identity and solidarity, while our hearts are at a war against an invisible enemy.